Dealing with cultural diversity within the business context is very important, especially in Africa. We're in fact we're the most ethnically diverse place on earth. Now, we've been raised to believe that diversity is a strength. However, the practical understanding or experience we have is to show that diversity has become a divisive issue because we're contesting the space, the terrain. So there's ethnic rivalry, and everyone comes into the space with what they consider to be truth. So you look at how people view the world around them, and then you ask yourself a question. There is a cultural diversity in front of us. What are we trying to do with it? It's not just about knowing it. There has to be a goal greater than all of us. So when people are in the business, they have to sort of let go of there has to be a trade-off. Now, how does a business person sell that? They have to make people buy into, because people are never going to trade off unless they've bought into something that they feel is more valuable. So they must feel a sense of ownership of the vision of the business. And obviously honor people. Culture of honor is important. People's birthdays, people's anniversaries, even if nothing big is done, but to acknowledge a person. Hey, so-and-so's birthday today, and we're just saying something. Just that thing of acknowledgement, appreciation. Everyone should feel that their contribution in the business is worth something, that they can bring something worthwhile. So culture is become something more than just ethnicity. It's also groups, it's subcultures, it's groups within groups. And therefore, that kind of complexity of you assume that one racial group has one culture, and you discover that's not the case. Businesses, because of their very nature, for profit and all of that, they have to think through about that very carefully. One of the things that creates division at work is when the senior leaders have factions, and there are people that they have closer to them compared to others. That creates division. There's us and them kind of thing. And if you want to break, one of the things to break division, especially racially, is to make sure that you don't build a senior team that does not include the diverse cultures that exist in the company. You don't have somebody whispering to your ear what that group thinks. People think that promoting somebody to senior leadership who's of a different color is simply just a purely material or financial or political correct thing to do. It's also wisdom. That person is close enough to whisper to us what that group thinks. We have no access to that group until one of them is part of us. So the less of that group, we are deprived, we are poorer, because we don't know what that world is like, because we don't have somebody from that world. Because you'll assume all the time about these other people. Every Sunday you're assuming. But you wouldn't be assuming if you had people in leadership who are of that race. And tell me, by the way, I don't know your culture with all due respect, but can you tell me, when people say this, who are of your skin color, what do they mean? And when they do this, what do they mean? How do we navigate that? Your knowledge and your wisdom increases by exposure. So there's always a lot to learn every day from ordinary people if we are open to learn. The question is to how do I identify myself? Am I identify myself primarily as a Black person, or identify myself primarily as a child of God? And so I've mentioned the point that if I see myself primarily as Black, then I must see another person as primarily as white, then the other, rather than as a brother. So however I see myself determines how I see somebody else. Then the difference between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. A peacemaker is needed when there's conflict to make peace. And it's just never called us peacekeepers. That means he requires us. He knew we were going to experience conflict. That's why he called us peacemakers. Right? We have a minister of reconciliation, which means we have to be where conflict is for our faith to be visible. And so we have to therefore come into business setup knowing that there's going to be conflict. I was saying to one company participant, I said, you need perhaps to look at peer educators, key employees around that you want to throw around at in different parts of the departments of the company that you mentor and disciple, so they become the influencers within the company space. It's okay, I see this guy and he loves the law, or he's got a potential, and you bring him in to give him material, grow him up so that he influences. Because you're not going to be there in the canteen and other places where employees are talking and scattering among each other and even about you as a boss. But if you've got people like that there, the issue of theft and stock shrinkage and all of that would be diminished if you've got people that you've invested time in. Because again, this whole thing of dealing with conflict purely with disciplinary measures, and that's, it's using a sledgehammer to kill a fly. We need to be proactive. It's okay, look, we don't want to have a high turnover of keep having people leave the work because of discipline. So how do we invest in a few people who become peer educators or peer influencers in the company, who are going to probably We're going to allow this cascade down to their colleagues. Now, one of the things that I normally get to be told is this, but Africa, certain groups, ethnic groups, we struggle to get people to lead. We try to create opportunities, but people don't rise up. You are not going to get people to a place until you invest, until you reach them where they are. To take people to where they must go, you must go to where they are to take them there. God had took Moses out of Egypt into the wilderness, back to Egypt. The Israelites were in Egypt, so he had to go back to Egypt. He couldn't prophesy them out of Egypt or something. He had to go and confront Pharaoh. He had to go and do something that was very frightening for him to do, to get the people out into the promised land. So there's some people where the work is shorter because they already have background, or they already have this certain background that makes it easy for them. Like somebody who's flown around the world or has traveled, they already has a certain background about bookings and this and that and time. And so you're already building on an already established foundation. So we already shared a certain paradigm, way of thinking. It's easy, we run quicker. Here we're dealing with somebody who's never done any of that. So we have to start from scratch. So that is what is tiring. So the CEO or the leader of the company may not have the time to do that, which I think he should, but he needs to find somebody who does. Somebody who is relational by nature. Leadership is about people, management is about systems. We're dealing with people here, fragile. So there has to be, besides the vision of the company, where we are going, there has to be pastoral skills. So where a leader realizes that I don't have these skills, he must invest in them. Look, I don't have the skills, so one of my senior guys, I'm going to hire him because it's one, he can do the job, but also he can connect with people. So he will be our bridge. I'm poor in this, I need a bridge. A person who knows how to bring people from there to here. And that's why Moses had an Aaron, the spokesperson. So that's why everywhere in the Bible you see that God brought different skill sets together to achieve the same goal, but they come and approach it differently.